Hello YouTube. Today I want to discuss and debunk one of the worst arguments I ever hear people use to justify PED use and abuse. And that argument is basically saying PEDs are not that dangerous because we know examples of people in their 70s who took them when they were younger for long periods of time and they're still alive today. This makes no sense and is idiotic on many levels, and I want to discuss those levels with you. First one, that type of people, the type of people who are in their 70s are usually very successful, meaning that the reason why we still see them in the public sphere is because they made a career out of bodybuilding. They made a career out of being big and muscular. The amount of people who make it to that level is minimum. It's extremely small. Even if you manage to build or create an impressive physique with the use of drugs, that doesn't guarantee an income at all. There are many people who have a pro card who still do not make ends meet just with their bodybuilding career. They need to have a side job or they need to have a side hustle, but the sport in itself doesn't pay. And that's just talking about money. It's not even talking about fame. How many people out there have insane physiques that you've never heard of? Why? Because there are so many people who practice the sport and there are only so few spots. So at some point, it's going to come down to who's luckiest, who has the most talent, and the chances of making it to that level is very minimal. And the reason why it's also so important regarding that argument is that the reason why a lot of these guys who did PEDs in their 70s are still around is because they had access to top level medical care. They had access to certain drugs that cost thousands of dollars that you won't have access to. So if you ruin your health when you're young for nothing and no real payoff at the end, you're not going to have access to that. Let's say you ruin your organs, which is very common with PED use, and your liver doesn't work anymore. That's game over. If you don't have money, if you don't have connections to get a fast transplant, it's over. You don't get a redo. Your liver doesn't work, it's dead. It doesn't start up again, and you die. That's real life. Even for people who have a lot of money, sometimes if you can't get your hands on a new organ, it's over. But the thing is, and that's what people don't realize, you don't hear about the tragic stories that much. Yeah, you hear about a young bodybuilder who died on stage, but you never hear about the guy who battled disease for 10 years. You don't hear about the guy who did PEDs for 5 years and now he has to go to the hospital to get dialysis because his body cannot filter his blood anymore. You don't hear about these guys. And the reason why is because they don't share on social media. Why would they share something like that? Social media is all sunshine and rainbows. People share the best parts of their lives on social media. I'm the same. If I take a picture and I look fat, I'm not going to post the picture while I look fat. And if I did, I would have an idea in my mind of how to use that picture to my advantage. Like they all do. I would post a picture of me fat, then a picture of me ripped, and I would say I got there by taking that supplement that you can buy here, or that workout plan that you can purchase on my website. There's always an idea behind. That's what social media is. But social media, because of that, because you're spammed with positivity, is also invisibilizing all of the negativity and all of the tragedy and sadness that happens to people that just drop out. I guarantee you that the YouTube fitness scene, the Instagram fitness scene in 5 years will be completely different than what it is now. Why? PED use. All of the idols, all of the super famous guys that you see online today that have a massive following, a lot of them will be gone in 5 years. Some of which because they will stop taking drugs, sometimes because they've decided to, sometimes because their hands have been forced. They had to stop because if they didn't, they would die. And sometimes they will have health complications for the rest of their lives. Do you think that that guy who makes videos of him benching and showing off his pecs for like 400,000 people, you think that that guy is then going to make videos of him when he lost 80 pounds talking about his days at the hospital? No, he'll just drop out and disappear. But the issue is that once one of these guys drops out, there's always a new guy to take the reign and to get all of that momentum and following. And so it never stops. It's that virtuous circle of people following drug abusers again, again, and again. And they don't realize what's happening behind the scenes to these guys. And then they say stuff like, oh, but that one individual is still alive. Yeah, but for each person who made it to 70 with PED use, there's 49 others who are healed for the rest of their life or died that you will never hear about ever again. And if they do come out, if they do speak out, what is going to be the consensus? Most people are going to say, oh, it's because they were irresponsible with their use. They used too much, or oh, they had a specific illness. How many times have you heard that? A guy dies because he does PEDs, and the answer, the excuse is, oh, he had a pre-existing condition. There seems to be a very large portion of bodybuilders who have pre-existing conditions. What I think is that PED use is going to find the weak spot in the armor and it's going to bring it out. I don't call that a pre-existing condition. That guy could have lived to his 80 or 90 years old happy without his PED use. The thing that killed him was brought out by PED. Most of the time it would have never affected that person if they didn't touch that product. And that's also why that argument is so idiotic, because it ignores the fact that all of those people that are now sick because of the products don't advertise it. They don't speak on it, and if they do, they usually get ignored because it's negativity and it's not really welcomed. Now, there's also the fact that that guy who's 70 and in good health, you don't really know if he's in good health. This is also the reason why that argument doesn't work on so many levels. He could be sick too. He could need to be on drugs for the rest of his life to be able to live a normal life too. But he's not going to say that. Why? Because A, he might have sponsors that tell him, hey, don't say that, we're paying you good money, so you better peddle our products and smile on the pictures. Or it might be just pride. The fact that they don't want to destroy their legacy. They don't want to expose the fact that what they did in the past that made them famous is now making them miserable. So they're going to show a brave face until they die. And when they die, eventually people are going to say, oh, they lived a good life. But the truth is that with the advancement of medicine, with what we know about diet, we should be living longer and longer. A guy who's been training all his life dying at 70 is a tragedy. It's so young. We should be pushing the limits. People should be living until they're 80, 85 in good health, physically active. I see that with my ancestors who didn't have what I have. So how it would be shameful for me to not be able to at least do as good as them. I want to do better. I want to be good for longer. And this is my take on this argument, and this is my little rant on it, because so many things can be used to justify drug use, sadly, but this is not one of them. This is one that has so many holes. It's so easy to debunk that every time I see it, it doesn't even make me want to argue with the person, because in my opinion, if they can't do the intellectual work to realize that this is bogus, then I don't want to waste my time educating them on something that's so simple. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have a good day.